ADOS really should sue MSNBC. And there's several reasons why I didn't come, let me put a little comma there. I didn't come to this conclusion right away. And I understand other people didn't for mostly the same reason, that it's more personal to us, so that the trajectory of our animosity is the person, Joy Reid, the person, Minister Thompson. I'm going to call him that because I don't know his other name. I don't see it anywhere. And he goes by Minister on Twitter. The people, we look at them, and that's one of the reasons I put that video up with Tariq Nasheed, and I had a few captions, because that was speaking for my initial feeling. And I wonder if they've changed. But after having some time to think about it, to talk to people on it, to vent, but I like to talk to people. Even other YouTubers, like I was on Wu Zhao's channel. I want to say look up his channel, but it's hard to pronounce his name. I think it's WUDJ. Or maybe I'll put a link or something. But one thing we have in common is we both have more Pan-African spirit. The moment we saw what ADOS was about, and I don't know when he saw, because I think he may have been later to it, but I saw it grow pretty organically, to the point where when somebody calls the movement created by 5 people who are real, and then after that it's foreign AI, which is insane. But you literally have a former CIA agent. That's why I played that video within the video in my last video. But really, I mean, video. He's a former CIA agent saying that ADOS it was 5 real people and foreign agents. Not just foreign agents, but foreign bots, AIs. Like, he was saying the same thing that MSNBC was saying. So I looked at it, and it was more personal, and I wondered, like, why would they say this? Why would they do this? Are they that sycophantic to the DNC? Is this just an extension of the Clinton tribe? Is it? I didn't know the Clintons were so tribal. I'm not a fan of Hillary Clinton. It's just, I didn't engage with the real core Clinton people. Maybe Haven Bullets, which I'm starting to see because of the way he came out against ADOS immediately, like it was an affront. Like, I would reckon he might be the one person that knows why Joy Reid would attack ADOS based on lies like that. But I have a feeling he wouldn't come out and say it. Like, Haven can't come out and say it. There's something binding these people that is insane to me. And I'm not, I try to analyze it, and I look at it from a different perspective, and I still can't put a finger on it. And I say it's a different perspective because how many black first liberals do you know? I mean, there's Tim Black is probably an example, Bob TV, maybe a couple other people, but it's not prevalent. Usually black first people are very centrist, or they're conservative, or they think they're conservative, because like if ADOS it's put like this, ADOS is a liberal movement. But because so many Democrats are against it, it almost takes on a persona that's not liberal, because it's like, well, the Democrats don't want it. They're trying to derail it. But the way they're derailing it, you got to take advantage of that. I mean, this could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Because if you're familiar with that kid, Sandman, the one who was like mad dogging up with the Native American elder, and that thing was kind of spun out of proportion, because it was initially reported kind of like the whole thing with Libya and the slave trade, where CNN is just on that bullshit. They show one supposedly, and it's questionable because the dude was smiling, person getting sold. And then you see a whole bunch of fake pictures, and I knew they were fake because I studied Africa. I studied Libya. I recognized them from the war. I recognized them right away. I'm like, this is some bullshit. This is not slavery because these pictures are images of the war. You can do reverse image searches. I did reverse image searches on the other pictures, and they were worse. They weren't even in Libya. So I did a video on that. Hey, the Libyan slave trade thing is a hoax. What's pushing this? What's pushing this narrative? And I later found out that it was probably coming from Europe. And Europe wants to do this because the way Libya they were helping people go to Europe through Libya by selling them some janky boats. Some of them were dying at sea or having to get, calling up, saying we're about to drown, come help us. And Europe was like, we didn't want this. And what you're doing is tantamount to slavery. And next thing, and I think that's the only motivation behind it. I understand that motivation more than I understand why the hell Joy Reid would try to derail a political movement. Especially if it's not coming from Joy. I don't know who it's coming from. I don't. That's it. I mean, that whole thing with that kid Sandman, he's suing for $250 million. And the story was exaggerated in the sense that first they were beefing with some Hebrew Israelites because they, I guess some of them had MAGA hats on, and then they had a black dude among them, and the Hebrew Israelites was like, you're going to have to watch these crackers. You got to watch these crackers. They were telling the black dude, and then they got into it like, why you got to watch the crackers? Motherfucker, we ain't doing shit. We ain't racist. And then it was going back and forth, and so the Native American dude tried to intervene, the elder, and the media kind of made it look like the beef was just between him and the Native American dude, and the kid should have backed up a little bit, so don't try to put your head over somebody's head like that. And that's what he was guilty of, but they spun it in a way where I can kind of identify with it. You ever been accused of something and then people exaggerate it like fivefold to the point where you're like, I'm not going to apologize for what I actually did, until we address why you're lying like this. So I get why the kid was, felt like he was treated unfairly in the media because they exaggerated what went on. They made it seem like it was him and the Native American dude beefing, and he's telling him to get out of his country and all that. And it wasn't really on that level. I don't think the kid should get no goddamn $250 million, but I tell you what, I said that because you got a way better case than that kid. And if you don't do the case, if you don't go after MSNBC, which could be worth enough money, which would allow you to buy Congress, and then getting reparations would just be, it might even be better to get a portion of the media. But either way, you have a case. I mean, because you would have to have a better representation in the media. But I mean, it would also, and this is one of the reasons I was in favor of it in the first place, because it was kind of hard to really look back at how I came to the conclusion that no, Joy Reid ministered. I don't care how many different scenarios might have caused them to create these bullshit stories to derail a political movement. We got to look at MSNBC. And that's another thing, man. They wouldn't do that to anybody else. No other political movement. Imagine a political movement for the sake of the handicap. You think they would just lie about that, say these are some Russian bots trying to get people to vote for Trump? Imagine if it was for the sake of let's say the transsexual. This, what MSNBC did is obviously grounds to sue. It's much worse. And there's no evidence. They have no evidence of some goddamn AI, artificial intelligent Twitter people. Matter of fact, the evidence shows that Malcolm Nance has more bots employed in his social media than anybody that I know of. I mean, that dude is botted up. And that's the person who's accusing people of doing it. And he's former CIA, so, that's kind of his thing. And it's exposing them as being incompetent. You know what I mean? So you got a case. I think I've lost some train of thought. I might add some to this video. I may add some stuff, I don't know. Or I might just leave it at that. Because the money you get from suing MSNBC, and also, one thing I want to say, the publicity, if you don't sue MSNBC like that, if you go after Joy and Joy removes, or MSNBC removes Joy, then it's sort of a lateral thing, just as far as how it looks in the media. It's horizontal. You're not moving up because it's like, oh, they are really anti-African immigrants because they took out Joy Reid. You're going to have people spinning it like that. They won't look as firm at why they did it. It would be more of a personal thing when it really should be more of a political thing as far as how it is in the media, because what MSNBC is doing is just another, it's like they're the Willie Horton. Joy Reid's the Willie Horton. This is the example. They're using her almost with the like slave narrative, kind of the same sort of motif where she is the second in command Sambo character who is keeping the other blacks in line and in doing it in a way that you would never do to any other type of political movement. And you can look at that and say, hey, we're not doing this because of Joy. I mean, Joy is basically still another slave in the scenario. She's a sellout because if she doesn't sell out, what's going to happen to her descendants in a land where the people around her, even though, she's an immigrant, she's been here for at least a generation. She was born here. The people around her neighborhoods, as far as it looked like her, that she could build with, are going through all sorts of crap. So that is, that's leverage to where you can get people where you can buy people out. It's like what Yvette Carnell said about R. Kelly. I agree. He was basically flossing money in an area where people are easily exploited. And personality too, though. I might disagree right there. I think a lot of times people are just with him because he has personality. He's funny. That may be it. But I agree. It's exploitation to a degree with Joy Reid. Where does her family go? Now, I don't excuse it. I just realize that there's going to be enough out there to where the sellout is not the problem. And if you go after the sellout, some people are not going to see her as a sellout. She looks too much like them. It's too much of a political it's just too much of an obstacle. But if you go after MSNBC, and while you're going after MSNBC, you point out that MSNBC does not run anything else like this with other people. That if they were to replace Joy Reid, they would probably replace her with someone that does the same thing. They don't have pro-reparation shows, and then when they do, they have one with someone who is making reparations look ridiculous. I mean, imagine a reparations advocate that goes on TV First time they're talking about N Cobra. I've never seen N Cobra on TV again before. Like I had never even heard of N Cobra. And your first impression of this guy is that he's set tripping with other reparation advocates. Imagine that. That makes reparations look ridiculous. If I'm like a basic on the fence, say Japanese dude, don't know anything about reparations or the cause or anything. I'm looking at this and this is some hella propaganda that not only makes reparations look bad, because what he was trying to do was almost co-opt it and say, hey, we're the legitimate. Not try to do, that's what, trying, but that's what he was doing. Whether it worked at all, I don't think it did. Which is, hey, the only way it worked really is if they wanted to make MSNBC look so bad, we could sue them for that. I say thousands, but hey, if dude can sue for $250 million, so can ADOS. I'd go with that exact number. $250 million. Because what MSNBC did was based more on lies than what CNN did. CNN spun something and probably didn't listen to the alternative. It was bad journalism. It was bias. They spun something. MSNBC created something that did not exist at all. Then when it was successful, they tried to co-opt it. And while trying to co-opt it, they made the movement itself look incompetent. And then took the whole thing on Twitter. So that you can't get away from. Like, you have a major case. You should sue MSNBC. Make Joy Reid out to be an accomplice, not the target. And because if you target Joy Reid, what do they replace her with? Like Angela Rye? That's probably who they'd replace her with. And you'd end up with the same thing. And you'd be complaining, but Angela Rye said they were bots. No. That's why you go after the money. You go after the prize. You have a case. I'd throw $250 million. If this kid can sue for $250 million with CNN, don't sell yourself short. Because that $250 million, if it was that much, and I don't think it would be, because I think if it really became, once they saw all the evidence that you have that MSNBC is trying to derail a black political agenda that grew organically, once you have all that evidence, they're settling out of court probably for like $50 million. It's $50 million you don't have. So sue MSNBC ASAP.